travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stelliferous, and you've crash landed on the Monster Catchers Journal podcast, where adventure, mystery, and magical creatures collide. Grab your compasses, ready your traps, and get comfortable, because today's journey takes us into one of the most unpredictable biomes in Nibiru, the Duskfall Steppes. And our quarry? A creature that many consider to be a myth, a phantom of the underground, a shadow in the dust. Today, we hunt the ever-elusive Meerno. The Duskfall Steppes are not your average biome. There's something here ancient, something untouched, a haunting beauty. Golden grass as far as the eye can see, always rustling even when there's no wind. The light never fades, never brightens, just dusk. Forever the air hangs heavy with rain scent and the ground sinks just a little when you walk, like it remembers every step. I've traveled across Nibiru, from the crystal glaciers of Alcyon Ridge to the dense glow jungles of Talvara. But the steppes, they test your patience, they test your instincts, they test your will. This is Meerno's home, and Meerno is the master of it. So let's get into Meerno. Meerno is a fascinating hybrid, equal parts meerkat and rhino, small, sleek, and low to the ground, but muscular, tank-like with a blunt, plated horn designed for charging. Its skin is a dull mineral silver, helping it blend with dusty soil and glinting like metal in the moonlight. But that's not even the interesting part. Meerno can vanish underground with no trace. Its sand veil cloak ability allows it to tunnel just below the surface without disturbing a single blade of grass. You could be standing right above it and never know it. It watches, it calculates, it waits for the perfect moment. Some say Meerno is more than a monster. They say it's a guardian of the steppes, a living spirit of survival, built not just to endure, but to outsmart. I didn't come here to trap it, I came here to earn it. Before I even set foot in the steppes, I spent 3 weeks preparing. I mapped tunnel systems based on soil density and rainfall. I marked out natural choke points, narrow valleys, steep hills, rocky clusters, where Meerno might surface on retreat. But I knew one thing, speed wouldn't win, force wouldn't win, only patience would win. I packed 3 tools for this hunt. The echo dust, which is a fine powder that reacts to vibration. The phase snare, a passive trap that catches energy fluctuations. And then my seismic tracer, my secret weapon, mapping underground paths in real time. I knew Meerno would be watching, it always was, so I gave it a show. I wandered with deliberate clumsiness, set false traps, scanned the wrong burrows. I became the fool Meerno wanted me to be, until I was exactly where I needed to be. I was kneeling beside a fresh burrow, one just warm enough to signal recent use. I scattered echo dust in a wild arc, careful not to make a sound. At first, nothing. Then, tiny tremors, faint, rhythmic. It was circling me. It was toying with me. I placed the phase snare near a burrow and pretended not to notice the reading on my compass. I whistled, faked a journal entry, anything to keep my body language calm. Then, the earth buckled behind me. Meerno burst out like a missile. Its horns caught the moonlight, eyes locked onto mine. No roar, no snarl, just awareness. And it silently, paws digging into soft soil, and in a flash, it vanished again. But not before I marked its angle and speed. The seismic tracer lit up. I watched its tunnel curve, an ambush route. It was coming back for round 2. I placed my shock trap in its tunnel path, precisely calibrating to Meerno's velocity. Seconds passed. Then crack! A jolt in the earth. Meerno shot out of the ground again, startled, flickering between solid form and sand veil cloak. I didn't wait. I slammed my glyph down onto the ground, a relic etched with energy binding runes. The device struck ground in open midair, unleashing a net of glowing symbols that wrapped around Meerno like a slow storm. It fought, twisted, charging, pawing the ground. But this time, it was contained. I walked forward, slowly crouched, and whispered, "Thank you." Meerno didn't go down from brute strength. It went down because I listened, I watched, I waited, and I respected. The Duskfall Steppes aren't kind to fools. and Meerno doesn't suffer hunters who don't deserve it. As I pocketed the warm pyramid, I felt a deep, heavy stillness in the air. It wasn't fear, it wasn't triumph, it was balance. I had earned Meerno's respect, and maybe its partnership. It was never about capturing a creature, it was about understanding one. The wind of the steeps died down as I walked back to my rover, Meerno sealed safely inside the pyramid at my side. My boots were heavy with mud, my hands trembled, not from fear or exhaustion, but something harder to describe, a kind of reverence. That hunt had changed me, so I did what I always do after a difficult catch. I went to the Golden Horn pub. It's nestled just outside the steep's western edge, but built into a cliff that overlooks the ocean of grass. Weathered stone walls, flickering lanterns, a roof patched together with scrap metal and beast hide. To the average traveler, it might look like a broken shed. To us catchers, it's a second home. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped inside, the warmth hitting me like a pulse. Smell of fried root vegetables and drift smoked meat filled the air. A three-headed folk singer strummed a lute in the corner, singing about losing a bet to a banshee in Sector 9. Behind the bar stood Gola, the owner, bald, broad-shouldered, always polishing something that didn't need polishing. She raised an eyebrow when she saw the pyramid at my side. Well, someone's had a good night. I slid onto my usual stool. Let's just say Meerno gave me a run for my credits. She whistled low. You're not the first to chase that ghost. You might be the first to come back with it. She poured me a glass of blueberry root whiskey, strong, earthy, a little bitter. Legal drinking age on Nibiru is 10 for a reason. By 14, most of us have seen things that make adulthood look like a nap. I took a sip and let the burn ground me. All around me, the pub buzzed with stories. One young catcher bragged about outsmarting a swarm of ember ticks in the volcanic rift. Another passed around a sketch of a new glyph he'd glimpsed in the fog dunes. Someone was even carving a wooden figure of a sandworm, muttering to themselves like it was a prayer. And I just sat there, pyramid in my lap, the hum of Meerno's energy pulsing against my palm. It was quiet now, almost meditative, like it knew the hunt was over, but our journey was just beginning. That's the thing about catching a glyph like Meerno. It's not about power, it's about respect, about proving you're not just another name on a list. You have to walk like the wind, think like the earth, and strike only when the moment sings. Some glyphs demand strength, others demand empathy. Meerno, he demands both, so. And I'll tell you this, it wasn't just caught, it was earned. So if you ever find yourself wandering the Duskfall Steppes, tread lightly, watch the ground, and if you feel the earth shift beneath your feet, don't run, listen, because Meerno might be watching and waiting to see if you're worth the dance. The Golden Horn buzzed with chatter, stories, and the occasional flare of magic as catchers showed off their latest finds, but in one quiet corner near the fireplace a boy sat alone, maybe 10 years old, eyes wide with awe, gripping a notebook so tight the papers curled. He must have been watching me from across the room because as I stood to leave, he jumped to his feet and rushed over. Boots too big, jacket too long. Hey, lady! I want to be a glyph catcher! His voice cracked half through, caught between excitement and something more fragile. Hope. Maybe desperation, a dream, trying not to shatter too soon. I looked down at him. Tired eyes, dirt on my cheeks, a bandage on one knee. That was me once. I knelt, resting the warm pyramid Meerno's prison and promise against my thigh. Well, it might take you a while to get where I am. His shoulders sank just a little, but I wasn't done. But that's not a bad thing. I reached into my satchel and pulled out my cracked glyphstone, useless in battle, but still humming with faint energy. This was my first. I couldn't catch anything with it. Could barely charge it. but I kept it anyway to remind me that even the strongest catchers start small. I handed it to him, his fingers wrapped around it like it was treasure. Don't rush the journey. Don't skip the hard parts. Every scratch and misstep and lesson will shape you. The glyphs don't just test your skill, they test your soul. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. Then will Meerno like me someday? I chuckled. If you listen to the wind, learn the ground beneath your feet, and never stop being curious, maybe someday, but you've got your own path, your own glyphs to meet. He smiled, a real one this time. As I stepped out into the dusk and the grass rustled underfoot, I realized something. We don't just catch monsters, we inspire the next ones to try. And maybe that's the most powerful glyph of all. I could have left the pub right then, right off into the dusk with another glyph under my belt, another entry in my journal checked off. But I didn't catch this glyph for me. I caught it for Luna, my best friend, my partner in crime, the reason I ever became a glyph catcher at all. Back when we were kids, running through the neon fields of Outpost 12, chasing shadows with sticks and broken compasses, she used to tell me, one day I'm going to have a glyph that moves like the wind, but hits like a comet. Meerno is exactly that, and now it was time to give her hers. I met her in the back room, away from the noise. She was waiting, sitting on a creaky bench, kicking her boots against the stone floor. When she saw the pyramid in my hand, she stood up so fast she nearly tripped. You didn't. I did. She reached out slowly, reverently, and placed her hands around the pyramid. It pulsed in response, warm and alive, as if Meerno already knew. You really caught it for me? I couldn't have done it without everything you taught me. The way you see the world, the way you read terrain like it's a poem. I brought the trap, but you gave me the eyes. She laughed through tears, hugging the pyramid to her chest. In that moment, I wasn't just a catcher. I was a friend, fulfilling a promise. We talk a lot about the hunt, about strategy, terrain, tools, but sometimes the real story isn't about the creature. It's about who we catch it for. Meerno wasn't my story to tell, it was hers. And from this day forward, Luna's journey would never be the same, because that day is the day that she got her first glyph. Luna wiped her eyes and held the pyramid close, still in disbelief. I gave her a nudge with my elbow and grinned. Hey Luna, let's get Zena and celebrate at the Broken Dipper Bakery. She laughed, one of those loud, goofy laughs that made the walls shake a little. You're buying. I just caught a mythical glyph. I think I've earned at least one pink glazed thunder tart. We stepped out of the pub into the twilight, 3 moons glowing above and the steeps behind us. But ahead, laughter, friendship, fresh pastries, and the kind of joy that only comes after surviving something wild together. The 3 of us, Luna, Zena, and I, strolled down the lantern-lit streets of Cliffside Market. The scene of sugar, spice, and something vaguely magical curling around or through the air. Luna clutched the pyramid containing Meerno like it might float away if she let go. She looked like a kid with a birthday cake and a secret. Zena walked beside me, her hands stuffed in her jacket pockets, smirking like she already knew how this is going to end. You 2 really hunted a sand rhino meerkat hybrid across the steeps and decided the next logical move was cupcakes, she said, raising an eyebrow. Luna and I said, in perfect unison, thunder tarts. Broken Dipper Bakery was just as chaotic and charming as ever. Its roof slanted like it had been dropped mid-spell, and the neon sign still flickered between Broken Dipper and Broken, depending on how much sugar was in the air. We pushed through the door and were met with warm, cinnamon-laced air and the sound of enchanted mixers humming like bees behind the counter. A short, round baker with flour in his beard shouted across the room, Stelliferous! Luna! Zena! You 3 here to break your teeth on a shock muffin again? I want the blueberry boom tart, Zena said without hesitation. No frosting, just the explosives. We slid into a booth shaped like a cracked muffin tin. Luna set the glowing pyramid on the table and stared at it like it might start talking. I still can't believe he's mine, she whispered. I can, I said, nudging her arm. You've earned this. Senna sipped her sparkling tea and grinned. All right, I'll admit it. This is cooler than I thought. Creepy glowing sand monsters in the crystal prison? Yeah, pretty rad. Treats arrived, 1 thunder tart, 1 shock muffin, and 1 blueberry boom for Zenna. We dug in like we hadn't eaten in a week. Luna moaned with joy. This tastes like getting everything you wanted for wintertide. Zenna's muffin made a tiny pop as it fizzled with spell sugar. She didn't even flinch. I leaned back in my seat, watching them both, my best friend and my roommate, laughing, eating, and being very much alive in the strange, wonderful world we shared. Not every day ends with a hunt. Not every entry in the journal is about a creature. Some days are about celebration, about passing something precious on, about pink frosting and the people who hunt worth it. And tonight, this entry is for Luna, for Zenna, and for Thunder Tarts with extra glitter. As we sat there filling our bellies and soaking in the post-hunt glow, I leaned back in the muffin tin booth and let out a deep, satisfied sigh. Thunder Tarts. Perfect. Zenna's smug grin as her boom tart exploded. Blue glitter across the table. Worth it? Luna's quiet smile as she held the pyramid close to her chest. Unbeatable. And then it hit me, like a psychic punch to the brain. My eyes snapped open. Oh! I shouted. Zenna looked up mid-sip. Uh-oh. I missed my assignment for Professor Orion's class. Luna choked on a sprinkle. Zenna blinked. The Professor? Orion? The one with the space tattoos and eyes that glow when he's mad? I groaned, rubbing my temples. The very same. It was due tonight. We're in celestial biology. 10 pages on multiplanar creatures and the ethics of binding magic. Luna winced. Oof, you're toast. I nodded. Toast it like that marshmallow tart you lit on fire last semester. I slapped my head against the table. He's going to make me recite ancient hymns of repentance while balancing a nebula plant on my head again, isn't he? Zenna and Luna didn't answer. They just nodded in sync and stole the last bite of my muffin while I mourned my academic dignity. Yeah. Caught a legendary glyph, made my best friend cry happy tears, ate a magical tart, but I also missed my assignment, and now Professor Orion's probably sharpening his lecture wand. Typical day in Nibiru. That night, I didn't sleep, not because I wasn't tired. I was, but because dread is like gravity on Nibiru, heavier under guilt. The hallways of Luon Academy glowed with soft white blue light as I made my way toward the Hall of Starborn Study, the place where celestial theory, multiplanar ethics, and humiliation collided. That night, I didn't sleep, not because I wasn't tired, I was, but because dread is like gravity on Nibiru, heavier under guilt. The morning after the bakery celebration hit me like a comet to the brain. No sleep, no escape, no way out of it. I walked through the quiet corridors of Luon Academy, a step echoing like a countdown to judgment. The closer I got to Professor Orion's class, the more my stomach twisted. I opened the carved starwood doors to the Hall of Starborn Study and stepped inside. There he was, Professor Orion, tall, sharp-jawed, and somehow always wearing that same midnight blue robe that shimmered faintly under the skylights. His 2 eyes met mine the moment I walked in. No anger, just that look. Disappointed look. Stelliferous, you're late. And the assignment? I stood at attention, hands behind my back. I missed it, sir. I was in the Duskfall Steppes. I hesitated. I caught Meerno, but I know that doesn't excuse it. A long pause, the kind that makes your brain try to fold itself inside out. This is your only your second missed assignment. And all your time at Luon Academy, I expected better. That stung more than yelling would have. He walked over to his ceremonial platform where an angry-looking nebula plant sat in the crystal bowl, its leaves twitching in what I can only describe as judgmental disapproval. You know the tradition. recite the ancient hymns of repentance, and balance the plant without magic. I sighed out loud. He raised an eyebrow. Would you prefer the second plant? No, sir. I stepped up, placed the nebula plant gently on my head. It hissed at me, and began the ritual. O light that birthed the stars, O voice that carved the void, forgive thy stubborn child, who forgot the sacred joy. By verse 20, I regretted every second of my bakery detour. By verse 40, I was sweating. By the final line, the plant was humming, and I was ready to collapse. Professor Orion nodded. You'll submit the assignment late, but thorough. And next time, he fixed his ocean blue eyes on me. Don't let the glittery deserts win. I bowed slightly, still balancing the smug little plant. Understood, Professor. So, to recap, I tracked one of the most elusive glyphs ever. Across the Duskfall Steppes, faced a creature of shadow and stone, caught it, gave it away, celebrated with pastries that glittered, missed an assignment, balanced a plant on my head while reciting space hymns. All in all, just another day in Nibiru. But the truth is, this one meant something extra because this hunt wasn't about the thrill or the glory. It was about friendship, about the people who shape us, challenge us, and remind us why we do what we do. Meerno was never mine to keep. It belonged with Luna, and seeing her light up when I handed over that glyphid, that was better than any badge, any rank, any title. It was a reminder that the real magic isn't just in catching monsters. It's in the stories we share after. Over tarts with friends, in the heart of dusk. This has been the Monster Catcher's Journal. I'm Stelliferous. Until next time, keep your pyramids, or as we call them, glyphids, charged, your boots muddy, and your heart wide open, because out here, the hunt never really ends.